Welcome to the inaugural episode of New Community's Walk the Walk, think tank where thought leaders and game changers have intimate discussions about innovative and best practice methods to build an equitable future for all. My name is Craig Drinkard. I am the co-executive officer of the Victoria Foundation, and I am pleased to be joined today by my good friend and colleague, Rich Rohrman, CEO of New Community Corporation. Welcome, Rich.
Hi, Craig. It's great to be here with you. Thanks for being here.
It always brightens my day when I get a chance to hang out with my good colleague. I enjoy all our time together. So, Rich, let's get right to it. Take us to the beginning. How and why was New Community created?
Well, really, the start of New Community came out of the 1967 riots or summer disorders. They've had different names to it, but that was really the beginning of New Community Corporation. And out of that came a small group of commuted residents who were centered in Queen of Angels Parish. Monsignor Linder was a priest. That was his first assignment out of the seminary, was Queen of Angels. And there he met up with some strategic meetings with folks like Joe Cheneyfield and Willie Wright. And from there, the group got larger and larger. And it was really trying to figure out what was most needed in the community and what the riots were really about and what had to happen going into the future. So they started a group of meetings on Saturday meetings, and other folks were folded in, and the group got larger and larger. And simultaneously, they were looking to raise money, so there were kind of emissaries going out to suburban parishes, and those parishes, they were raising money from those parishes. There were Engelhard Industries committed to making a grant, and they decided that they actually didn't want a grant, that they wanted to have a loan so that they could build some sort of a credit background and some credibility, I guess, on the financial side. And there was a grant from DCA, and that's really what kind of got New Community started. And those series of meetings, out of that came the need for some affordable family housing that was much different than what the high rises in the housing authority. And certainly there was a lot of substandard housing in the city in general. And really culminating in 1973 with New Community putting its first stake in the ground, if you will, and that was the beginning of Holmes Court, its first housing development, which was 120 units for families. There was a lot of fight and pushback along the way to that type of housing. It was only a mid-rise building, and at the time the thoughts were the more floors you had, the better use of the real estate. And of course, we all know how that ended up with demolition of pretty much all of those kinds of buildings. So that's really what got it started and how it got started.
So, Rich, you mentioned some very interesting and important names that were at the forefront and on trailblazers in the launching and starting of New Community. And we can go for a long time talking about quite a few of them. But for today, let's talk about a little bit about Monsignor Linder. Can you share an interesting story that you have for us today about Monsignor Linder?
Sure. He was, Monsignor was very unique in the way he looked at people. I've never met anyone, and I had the privilege of working closely with him for many years, but I've never met anyone that looked at individual people the way that he did. Monsignor, and I saw this many, many times over, Monsignor, he always saw more in a person than really they saw it within themselves sometimes. Yeah. So, for instance, for me would be when St. Joseph's Plaza was being renovated.
Yep.
So it was New Community's second headquarters. The first headquarters was up at 755 South Orange Avenue, which Victoria Foundation put money towards doing that. But so Victoria has been with us for a long, long time. But back to St. Joe's, it was in the final phases of renovation, and there was a vision to bring services and bring things to the community that didn't exist then.
Yeah.
The Priory restaurant, the sandwich shop, the health spa, all were going to be incorporated into those buildings. And I had been busy, had been brought in and busy in the environmental services or maintenance department and capital improvements and things like that. So Monsignor just said to me, hey, I want you to head down to St. Joseph's Plaza and start to work with a restaurant consultant and some other folks and do all of the final fit out of St. Joseph's Plaza.
Yeah.
I was kind of astounded by that. I had no experience in that, but Monsignor saw what he felt was the ability to get that done and put it in my hands, and it was just off and running. You really had no choice. You had to get it done. So he did that with me, and I've seen him do that with many, many other people. He would give you things that you really, didn't feel were in your wheelhouse, or you even had the experience to do.
Yeah.
And he would place those things in people's laps, and I got to tell you, 99 times out of 100, he was right, and whatever it is that he saw worked out.
Yeah. I had the pleasure and privilege over, particularly my tenure here at Victoria Foundation, in my roles, multiple roles, but really first starting as a program officer, I'm getting to know Monsignor much better, and I like to believe we developed a really good friendship. Right, it just wasn't about the work, and we would, as he and I would go for lunches. I would come over to right, and we would hang out. And I remember I got a few stories for Monsignor. One I'll say for later, but one that really stuck out to me is, there's an old adage that says service is the rent one pays for their time here on earth. And I would ask Monsignor about all the work that has been done by this organization, the thousands of units of housing, the thousands of families served in that housing, the number of people who were placed through jobs and social services, thousands and thousands of people that New Community has been able to help steer and help people kind of, in some instances, get their footing to change the trajectory of their life. And I would ask Monsignor about that, and he would always talk about what he still didn't get a chance to do. He still had this big vision about it was still so much more to do. He would say, Craig, yes, I hear that, but what about the families we haven't had a chance to connect with? What about this? So he was never satisfied, where a lot of people would sit back and say, look what I've done. As you know, Rich, we've had, we been part of New Community for so long. I say we. The New Community has been able to host not just from people from other parts of the state or other parts of this country, from other nations have come here to kind of look at the groundbreaking work that we've been able, we have been able to do here in New York because of the work of Monsignor and those who've been around him, like yourself and others, who really have bought into the mission about, really serving this community and serving it well. Yeah, a lot of great memories talking about Monsignor. So Rich, you talked a little bit about your being assigned to the work here at the Priory, the new became the new headquarters. Tell us a little bit more about your history with New Community.
Well, Craig, as you know, Monsignor was a persistent man, and
that's a way of putting it. Yeah, that's a way. Yeah.
And being his nephew, he had a lot of exposure to me, and he really wanted me to come up to Newark and be part of New Community. And in the maintenance department, when New Community was just getting started, They needed some systems that weren't in place, work order systems and purchasing systems and those types of things. So he really he brought me into into that maintenance department to kind of do some administrative work and get billings going and things like that. So, as you know, with uh, the maintenance department services all of the different buildings, and then but you need to have a tracking system and you need to have work orders and billings and things like that. So none of that existed, and he needed to get that stuff going. So that's where I started with New Community.
Yeah.
And from there, I went to business operations, which was as I had talked a little bit about earlier, was the Priory Restaurant and the health spa. And my job then became, after we put those facilities in place, became to run them, actually run those facilities, which is what I did for a number of years. And from there, I went to real estate operations, and real estate operations was kind of the coordination of the security department, the maintenance department, and the property management department, and just the general upkeep of the facilities, both on a capital, from a capital standpoint and a day-to-day operations standpoint. So I spent some years in that area, and I started in 1981, but I wasn't. It wasn't a continuous process. Yeah. I went away. I was working for another real estate development company for some years, and picked up some skills there. And when I came back to New Community, came back and did construction. I actually was in charge of the demolition of Holmes Court when we did that demolition. And then the real estate development, and along came the Better Life and re-syndications and a bunch of the other things that we did. So I kind of circled around New Community in a number of different areas, but it was great exposure.
Yeah. As you know, I too have a long history with New Community, not to the extent that you have, but New Community has been part of my life since October of 1980. October of 1980, I still remember it. It was during the World Series. I'm a big baseball fan. We moved from, I'm born and raised here in the city of Newark, and like other families who were resource strapped, I'll use that term. We moved quite often. Every few years, we would be moving to different apartments across the city. And I remember in 1980, my dad told us that because just a couple of months prior to us moving, my mom was diagnosed with lung cancer, and where we were staying wasn't sufficient. I'll use that term. And the good Lord opened up this opportunity for my family to go from that type of living environment to one of the new townhouses. We were in the Orange Doors down in number 1A, 14th Avenue, right? Remember it fondly, right across from the library. And remember, I didn't see the place until we showed up with our stuff. And to come in and to go from where we were to that facility, to that housing was like mind blowing. It was like moving from an apartment to a house, having the 2 floors, the townhouse set up, having the 3 bedrooms with the 1.5 baths, with the laundry room and right there, and the storage space right there. You kind of felt like you hit the lottery. And so it was able to provide me and my family with stability, all capital letters, in terms of the housing. But it also gave me a place where I developed some really deep friendships that I still hold close to me today. I can rattle off families that I'm still close with from 1980 to now. And the camaraderie that me and the other young people developed was right on the New Community grounds. I mentioned earlier I had another one of many stories around Monsignor, but I remember distinctly one summer night when me and the guys were hanging out one night, and Monsignor and Mr. Cheneyfield, my other dear friend, Mr. Cheneyfield, would walk the property. And one night they walked up on me and my friends were standing out there. We must have been around 15. And they were telling us, like you did, the history of New Community. And, you know, 15-year-old boys, you're like, yeah, okay. And I remember Monsignor and Mr. Cheneyfield telling us that the plans were to build a rec center down the street. And they were honest that, we're going to get there. It may not be around when you all can take full advantage of it, but we're going to get there, and we're going to build new housing there, and we're going to do new housing there, and we're going to do this right here, and we're going to do this on Bedford Street, and we're going to do this. And to see all of that come to fruition, right? And for some reason, I remember this night, as though it was yesterday, this conversation with this man I had never met before, and Mr. Cheneyfield, it's for some reason kind of stayed with me. So it's eerily I come back in this role, in my various roles at Victoria Foundation to reconnect with New Community on a different level. Just kind of just warms my heart that I can just partner with you all in that respect. Yeah. You mentioned New Community's founding in the late 60s, really getting started in the early 70s with this organization. It has grown, as I mentioned earlier, to not just a city model or a national model, but an international model. And, the organization has grown. And if anyone who's been familiar with nonprofits, understand that organizations go through life cycles. And part of the change in life cycles not only affects the operations, also affects the financial situation of the organization. So, Rich, New Community has faced some financial challenges. How have you been able to turn and create the financial stability the agency has right now?
Well, Craig, that really started with kind of an assessment process of where are we, what are our strengths, where are our people working? Are we fully utilizing our facilities? What do we have in the way of assets that we might be able to leverage in some way? Mm-hmm. So that was really the process. We did move some employees and some operations and consolidate them. Mm-hmm. And we were able to then rent some facilities that were underutilized and create income streams. Our 201 Bergen Street, which is now leased to a charter school, is a good example of that. We renovated space at 200 South Orange Avenue, which had been a early childhood development center, mm-hmm. and we were able to lease that out also. We brought in a physical rehab operation into our healthcare building and renovated space and leased that. We also were able to renovate and lease space to the Rutgers School of Nursing Community Health Center, mm-hmm. which really is a great goal of ours too, is to incorporate health more and more into what we're doing. The health needs are so great. Mm-hmm. So that was part of the process to really make sure that we're utilizing our facilities, and if whatever it is we're not utilizing, make it available to the community so it is utilized for something that the community can use. Yeah. Then it was really looking at the next thing, or really simultaneously, but the big thing was the real estate. We had New Community Manor, which is 327 units. It has a senior component and a family component. And that property, it had reached the end of its mortgage, and its other commitments were expiring. So it was time to do something with that property. And so we entered into a resyndication process, which is a process by which you wind down the old ownership entity. And those things were pre-tax credits. So there were a lot of individual partners, doctors, lawyers that were investors. All of these are kind of a combination of private investment and government investment.
So we wind down those old ownership entities, create a new ownership entity. You actually sell the property into the new ownership entity. And in doing that, you generate tax credits, which you sell to a tax credit investor, and that generates private dollars into the project. You take on debt, new debt, which also brings dollars into the project. So you use those dollars to pay the project's old debts off and wind it up, and then you invest the remaining dollars into improvements on the property. We invested, I guess, about $18 million into that particular project. But these are very time-consuming and complex transactions, so that it took us, over 2 years to do this one. Yeah. And we had New Community Douglas Homes, New Community Roseville, New Community Commons, and Roseville Commons, Douglas, and Gardens. So we had those 4 that were reaching a similar point in time, but it would have been it would have taken us over 10 years to do these if we did them individually as individual transactions. So we decided to try to bundle them and try to do them all in one transaction. And so we set out to find ourselves a development partner that had some experience. This was a bigger project than we would be able to take on ourselves. So we looked and we interviewed a number of different developers, and we ended up with Greystone Affordable Housing, and an individual there that Chris Eisenzimmer, who really put this project together on the Greystone side. He was a really smart guy, and so we were able to create a single ownership entity to sell the tax credits through and do the debt through, and all of the 4 individual projects fed up into this into this one entity. So we really were able to do 4 transactions in one transaction is what it was, and so we were able to compress the time frame, put about $75 million in repairs and upgrades into the building, starting from boiler systems that went from the 35-year-old systems were maybe 70% efficient to 98% efficiency. Wow. Yeah, so we really looked at all of the kind of energy conservation that we could do. And so we upgraded all the systems, elevators, those kinds of things. But then we went into the apartments, and we really gave the apartments a completely new flooring, new kitchens, new bathrooms, paint, you name it. We redid the inside of those units too. Yeah. And those transactions generated a great deal of, they generated cash for New Community also. That was one of, because we were part of these transactions. We were part of we were the general partner in them. We had amassed some of the limited partnership interest. So there was cash out of these transactions that flowed into New Community, which really made us as an organization whole financially.
Rich, how many units are we talking were touched by this? How many units were rehabilitated?
A little over a bit over 1,000, just about 1,100 units.
Yeah. I'll share that. I had the opportunity to go through not my old apartment, but once very similar to mine, when I grew up as a teenager, and I could actually close my eyes and walk through. I bet I could walk through that apartment blindfolded, because just that layout, and it was really heartwarming to see the depth in which the construction was. This wasn't just a slap of paint on the wall, change a few light fixtures and get out. As you said, these were like real serious upgrades to these apartments. And from what I understand, with very little disruption to the tenant's life, you are able to kind of work around folks and get this done without really disrupting people's lives. I was very impressed very impressed by that, Rich.
Yeah, we were very, very cognizant of not of being as unobtrusive as we could be. If you've ever, everyone's done work in their home or their apartments and things, and it always does create some inconvenience. But in the senior buildings, we would bring the seniors down to the community room, and we would feed them and have activities and things like that. So the seniors could come down while the work was going on in their apartments. So we wrote into the documents for the construction that the bathrooms had to be usable every night, and so you couldn't leave people without bathrooms and things like that.
Yeah.
So we were very cognizant of that, and we were also really had determined early on that we wanted to do the kind of work in these properties that would make them usable as clean, decent, affordable housing for the next 15 years at least, without needing any kind of significant work. Yeah. So that was a goal to do some really deep and lasting work on them.
Excellent. Now, Rich, I've been pelting you with questions. I was wondering, did you have any questions for me? Right, it's been running my mouth.
Well, I do. Victoria Foundation has been with New Community since since very, very early on. So, I mean, what is the view of Victoria Foundation regarding its involvement with New Community?
Sure. Let me try to frame this out a little bit. From my searching of our records at the foundation, our first grant, I believe, came to New Community, I believe, in 1973. $24,000. 14,000 was to hire, I think, our first full-time employee. What's her name? Cecilia
Fox.
Yes, Ms. Fox. Yes, and I had the opportunity to meet her over the years. And then there was 10,000 of that dollars that was set aside to help New Community purchase lots. And I think the process was because there was a mechanism in place to get dollars from the state, but it was kind of a drawn out process. And the thought was, if you all had a pool of money that you could buy lots and then get reimbursed from the state, it would kind of make your work a little easier. So that was our first foray into supporting New Community. I think we had one of our board members who was also intimately involved with the launching of New Community at that time. And so that was made for a really good marriage. And as the foundation was still getting its roots deeper into Newark in terms of its grant making, New Community became a really great partner. I think as I look at the records, again, going back to our records, you all probably rank as our second largest grantee over the years in our grant making. And we've watched this tremendous success you all have had. But one thing I would say that I've been most impressed by with the organization is you all have a very simple mission. Right? You think about your mission, right? I look at other organizations, it's the language and the goals are like massively, it can become overwhelming. And you all have always kept this very simple mission. And that's part one. Part two is that you have not deviated from that mission, right? This idea of service, right? And giving people talking about their dignity, right? You all have not deviated from that mission. And again, being part of the ebbs and flows of organizational life cycles, I think I'm proud to say Victoria is happy to have been here for the bright moments and the ribbon cuttings and all those things, but also during some of the challenging times and having conversations on, hey, as a partner, how can we be helpful? And I foresee that still happening. As you know, we're going through a strategic planning process at the foundation, and we look to be wrapping that up pretty soon. But because of the work you all do, I feel very comfortable that we will be still finding ways for us to partner going forward. And for you all to continue to be a leader in the CDC field here in Newark and across the state and across the country. You have programs that are second to none in terms of how you, again, serve people and do it in a dignified way. And I'm just very happy that we have been able to keep this almost 50-year relationship together, and look forward to another 50 years of that this marriage, and keeping it going.
Mm.
Yeah. So Rich, I had a little birdie land on my shoulder recently and told me that you have announced your retirement.
That's right.
And so congratulations. You know, of course, as a colleague, I'm extremely happy for you and your family, and very proud of the work you have done. I have seen you do here, and the legacy you have carried on, and really the opportunity you have laid out for the next CEO. So why is now the right time to make this transition? Love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, Craig, I think it's kind of the confluence of where New Community is now, where our financial stability is solid. Our facilities have been a lot of work has been done on the facilities as we've talked about. So physically, New Community is in terrific shape. Financially, New Community is in good shape. And on the personal side, I'm past what Social Security would call your retirement age.
About your energy in the effort.
So you know, I'm past that age, and my wife is at the point of her retirement, and you know that my daughter is out in Colorado and her fiance, and we're really looking to kind of enjoy life in a different way that we have these many years. Certainly, it's been a joy to be here.
Yeah.
But we're looking to kind of slow down a little bit, bring the pressure down, do some traveling. I have hobbies. I'm an avid scuba diver and snow skier, so I want to do a little more of those things, and just do reading, a little more learning, and certainly some volunteering. Not sure exactly what, but I definitely will be keeping busy. But it's really a step back, and I think it's time for the New Community is at a kind of a launch pad, I like to call it, to launch into its next 50 years, and it's you know, I think it's time for somebody who can commit to 5 or 10 years for them to be the ones, along with our terrific board of directors, who has steered New Community over the years. And been so close to the community it serves. I just think it's the ideal time from both of those perspectives for me to take a step back.
Well, Rich, you know, always sad to see a colleague, you know, move on, you know, move forward. Not sad that you're moving forward. That came out wrong. I'm happy that you're moving forward. Sad that we want to have as many exchanges as we will, but you know, I'm not a big believer in goodbyes. I'm always a big believer in so longs. I learned that from my dad. And I know though, no one truly gets New Community out of their blood. So it's gonna be like me, like anytime there's anything to do with or for New Community, you know, I get a call from my dear friend, board chair, Dr. Yamba. And it's like, of course, Dr. Yama is not if, it's like, just tell me what you need me to do. You know, New Community was, again, it's played such a big part of my life and my development and that of my family. I just feel this obligation to always be here. And what I always find interesting is that with New Community, it's maybe in the lunches or something you serve that you always seem to find staff that are just so dedicated to this mission, and
Yeah.
and like I said, never get New Community out of their blood. I'm going to miss you. The organization is going to miss you. However, you have really left the organization, and as you mentioned, and I would say this is, I know you wouldn't say this, but I believe in a tremendous position to attract some high talent to come in to really continue the fine work that you and those before you have really laid out, and position the organization to, again, continue to be of tremendous service to those in need in this Africa city, in our lovely city. Any parting thoughts from you, Rich? Just curious.
Well, I mean, one thing I would say, we talked a lot about the development of New Community, and I would say personally, in my development, if I could for a minute, I was a typical suburban Catholic kid, Catholic grade school, Catholic high school, even Catholic college.
Mm.
In suburban Philadelphia, in like a tract home development, and everybody that I ran into looked just like me and was just like me, both in color and in economics. I mean, I really grew up with a lot of people that were just like me. The enrichment that I've gotten over the years from working here at New Community and being here, all of the different people that I've been able to meet from all of the different backgrounds, and to be able to learn about them, I'm truly thankful to them. The experience that you and others have given to me is something that really formed my life and my thinking.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful to it. I'm grateful to all the people that I've met over these years that have influenced me.
Yeah, Rich. Thank you for that. Again, I would just say that I've been really touched by our relationship. Been really inspired by the work you have done here with the spirit in which you embody. You did not have an easy task in following the leadership of Monsignor Linder, but your grit, your understanding of the embodiment of this mission, and really the way you've been able to just galvanize your staff to really lean into this work and really get this organization through some, as we talked about earlier, a couple of choppy moments to where it is now. I really is a testament of your character and your commitment to this work. So I salute you and congratulate you on your retirement, and wish nothing but the best for you and your family, and look forward to us continuing conversations as we go forward, my friend.
Craig, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
All right, sir. All right. Sending you the best, and give the best to your family from me.
Thank you, Craig.
All right.
Take care.
Okay, everyone, thank you. This wraps up our first episode of our New Communities Walk the Walk think tank. Look forward to the next one coming up sometime soon. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All right.